Last night, Evelyn Cross stood in the doorway of Marcus Hale's kitchen wearing a red shirt that was not hers, one hand gripping the frame like the floor had shifted beneath her. Marcus did not step toward her. He stood by the sink in a plain white undershirt, both hands wrapped around a coffee mug he had not touched, his face careful in the way a man becomes careful when one wrong movement can be turned into a story. Behind him sat a child's cereal bowl, a past-due electric bill held to the refrigerator by a plastic magnet, and a crayon drawing of 3 chairs in a school auditorium. The middle chair had one word over it. Dad. Evelyn's phone lit up on the table beside that drawing. Corporate legal, emergency intake. One wrong sentence from her could take Marcus's job, his name, and the custody file that decided whether his daughter stayed under his roof. The note that could save him was 6 inches from her hand. She did not see it. She only looked down at the shirt, then back at him. What did you do? Marcus slowly set the mug on the counter. Not fast, not defensive, not guilty, just slow enough that no one could say he had moved toward her. Ms. Cross, he said quietly, before you make that call, please read the back of the paper. But her thumb had already touched the screen. Before this goes any further, tell us where you're watching from. And ask yourself this. If doing the right thing could cost you your child, would you still do it? Subscribe if stories like this make you stay for the truth. Evelyn pressed the phone to her ear, breathing hard. Her hair was loose around her face, nothing like the senior vice president who could silence a glass conference room with one look. The kitchen clock read 6:52 a.m. Marcus saw her eyes move past him, over the chipped counter, the lunchbox near the door, the tiny pink sneakers under the chair. He knew what the room looked like to her. Too small, too private, too easy to misunderstand. At Whitmore Financial, Marcus was a compliance coordinator, the man people called when a timestamp did not match, when a signature looked wrong, when a story needed proof instead of volume. But in his own kitchen, with his white boss frightened and his daughter asleep down the hall, none of that sounded like protection. It sounded like a man trying too hard to explain. The recorded voice came through the speaker. Whitmore Corporate Legal Emergency Intake. Please state the nature of the incident. Evelyn swallowed. This is Evelyn Cross. I woke up in my employee's house wearing his clothes, and I don't remember last night. Marcus closed his eyes for half a second. That was all he allowed himself. From the hallway came the soft scrape of a bedroom door. Nia was awake. 8 years old, bare feet, sleep-heavy eyes, holding the stuffed rabbit her mother had bought before the accident. She looked at Evelyn first, then at her father, then at the crayon drawing on the table. The drawing was folded in half. On the side Evelyn had not read, Marcus had written in blue ink, Ms. Cross, you are safe. You slept on a couch. I slept in my daughter's room. Your phone is charging. Please knock if you need anything. Nia whispered, Daddy, why is your boss wearing your shirt? Evelyn turned, and for the first time that morning, fear on Marcus's face was no longer something she could mistake for guilt. But the voicemail had already been recorded. The folded drawing on Marcus Hale's kitchen table had been there long before Evelyn Cross lifted her phone and turned his kitchen into an incident report, long before the red shirt, the emergency line, and the sentence that would make him sound guilty before anyone asked what really happened. The morning before, that same paper had been in Nia's small hands, still warm from the crayons she had pressed too hard into it. 3 chairs in a school auditorium. One empty space shaded bright yellow. Above it, in crooked purple letters, she had written, Front row, Daddy. Marcus had looked at it the way another man might look at a signed contract, because to him, a promise to his daughter carried more weight than anything stamped by Whitmore Financial. Their apartment was small enough that breakfast sounds filled every room. Bacon popping in a tired pan. The refrigerator humming too loudly. Nia's pencil tapping against the table while she practiced her recital lines under her breath. Marcus moved between the stove and the counter in his work shirt, the cuffs already fraying, his badge clipped straight, his cracked phone face down beside a stack of envelopes he did not want Nia reading. One was from the electric company. One was from the leasing office. One was from Family Services, reminding him that the custody review was not complete until home stability was confirmed. He slid that one under a grocery flyer before Nia could see the county seal. "You look serious," she said, watching him over her cereal bowl. Marcus smiled without letting the tiredness reach his eyes. "Toast is serious business." She giggled, and for 3 seconds the room became lighter. He put the less burned slice on her plate and kept the dark one for himself. Nia noticed. She always noticed. Her mother had noticed things like that too, before the accident took the voice that used to soften this kitchen. Nia pushed the folded drawing across the table. "You have to sit where I can see you." Marcus picked it up carefully. His hands were broad, brown, and rough at the knuckles. Hands that looked like they belonged to a man who fixed cars or moved furniture, not a compliance coordinator who spent his days proving whether other people's stories matched the timestamps. At Whitmore, he was the quiet one in the gray cubicle, the man executives only remembered when a file needed cleaning. He did not raise his voice. He did not gamble with rumors. He saved receipts, backed up emails, checked camera logs, and wrote everything down because he had learned early that some men were believed, and some men needed evidence just to be heard. "Front row," he said. "I promise." Nia studied him. "Even if your boss calls?" Before Marcus could answer, his phone buzzed. The screen showed an email from Blake Warren, Executive Operations. "Mandatory leadership reception tonight. Compliance attendance required. Absence will be noted." Marcus looked at the recital time, printed on the school flyer. 7 o'clock. Then he looked at the reception time. 6:30. His thumb hovered over the screen, and the kitchen went quiet in that dangerous way a small home goes quiet when money, work, and love all want the same hour. Nia folded the drawing once, twice, and slipped it into his jacket pocket. "So you don't forget where to sit," she whispered. A second message arrived before he could breathe. "Ms. Cross expects everyone present." By 6:20 that evening, Marcus Hale was standing beneath the glass ceiling of Whitmore Financial's executive atrium, with Nia's drawing folded inside his jacket pocket and the recital clock ticking louder than the music. He had given himself 30 minutes. Let Blake Warren see his face. Let the attendance list protect his job. Leave before 7. But the room was built to make men like him feel out of place before they had even spoken. Marble floors reflected shoes that cost more than his rent. Waiters moved with silver trays. Champagne caught the chandelier light like liquid gold. Marcus smoothed the sleeve of his only navy blazer and checked his cracked phone. One message waited from Nia's teacher's tablet. "I saved your seat." At the security desk, a young guard looked past Marcus toward the catering entrance. "Deliveries go through service," he said. Marcus lifted his badge without changing his voice. "Compliance. Marcus Hale." The guard blinked, embarrassed too late, and waved him through. Marcus did not correct him again. He had learned that dignity did not always need witnesses. Blake Warren appeared near the bar in a tailored gray suit, smiling the kind of smile that never reached both eyes. "Marcus." "Good." Ms. Cross wanted every department represented. His glance dropped to Marcus's old phone, then to the scuffed edge of his dress shoes. "Try not to look like you're waiting for a bus." A few people close enough to hear turned their faces just enough to pretend they had not. Marcus slid the phone into his pocket beside the drawing. "I'm here for compliance," he said. "Not decoration." Blake's smile thinned. Across the atrium, Evelyn Cross stood beneath the company's anniversary banner, surrounded by board members and senior partners. In daylight, she was all edges, precise voice, clean signatures, decisions that landed like sealed envelopes. Tonight, something in her posture was off. Not broken. Off. Her fingers rested too tightly around the stem of a wine glass. Her eyes kept moving toward the entrance, as if she had expected someone not to come, or feared someone would. Then her estranged husband stepped in with a blonde woman young enough to make the room go quiet without admitting it had. Evelyn saw them. Her face did not change, but the hand around the glass tightened until Marcus noticed her knuckles pale. Blake noticed too. He lifted another drink from a passing tray and leaned close to her. "For the future regional CEO," he said loudly. "Everyone's watching." Evelyn took the glass because refusing would have become a headline inside that room by morning. Marcus looked at his phone again. 6:43. 17 minutes until Nia walked onto the school stage. He moved toward the exit, one hand already touching the folded drawing in his pocket. That was when a waiter bumped his shoulder. The drawing slipped free and landed face up on the marble. 3 crayon chairs. 1 yellow seat. Front row, Daddy. Blake picked it up before Marcus could. That's sweet, he said, loud enough for the nearby executives. But tonight, Marcus, try remembering who signed your paycheck. Evelyn's eyes shifted to the paper. For half a second, the coldness in them caught on the word Daddy. Then glass shattered near the bar, and every head turned. Evelyn Cross was staring down at her empty hand, swaying slightly, while Blake's assistant stood 10 feet away with a phone angled just a little too perfectly. The phone in Blake Warren's assistant's hand was already recording before the glass hit the floor. Marcus saw that first. Not the champagne spreading across the marble. Not the executive stepping back to protect shoes that cost more than his daughter's school fees. Not Blake reaching for Evelyn Cross's elbow with concern that looked practiced in a mirror. The camera was already up, angled cleanly, waiting for a fall that had not happened yet. Marcus did not say it out loud. In rooms like this, the wrong truth spoken too early could sound like an accusation from the wrong man. He bent down and picked up Nia's drawing instead, smoothing the corner Blake's thumb had bent. Front row, Daddy? The purple letters looked smaller under chandelier light. Evelyn swayed once, then steadied herself against the bar. I'm fine, she said, but the words came out too soft to command anyone. Blake kept his hand at her back. Someone get her upstairs before this turns into gossip. Marcus looked at the broken glass, then at the untouched drink Blake had placed near her minutes earlier. 2 flutes. Same champagne. Different rims. One carried Evelyn's deep red lipstick mark. The other did not. Tiny things. A glass. A camera angle. A man too eager to control the story. Marcus's whole job was tiny things. He checked signatures that looked almost right, timestamps that were only 3 minutes off, expense reports that told on themselves without making a sound. But this was not a file. This was a woman losing balance in front of people who were already deciding what her weakness could be used for. His phone vibrated once in his pocket. A message from Nia's teacher. We're lining up now. Marcus did not open it. He could feel the folded drawing in his palm, like a small weight pulling him toward the door. Evelyn's eyes shifted to him. For 1 second, she was not the senior vice president everyone feared. She was a woman trying to understand why the room had tilted without her permission. Marcus kept both hands visible. Ms. Cross, he said quietly, do you have someone here you trust? Blake gave a short laugh. Marcus, she doesn't need a compliance audit. She needs privacy. The word trust reached Evelyn a beat late. Her fingers searched the bar for her purse. It sat open. Her phone lay inside, screen black. Dead. Marcus noticed the power button had been pressed hard enough to leave a faint smudge near the cracked screen protector. Her phone is off, he said. Someone should call her driver from the company desk. Already handled, Blake said too quickly. Marcus looked at him. Then what's the driver's name? For the first time that night, Blake's smile failed to arrive on time. A thin silence opened around them. Evelyn caught it. Her gaze sharpened, not with belief, not yet, but with the first small resistance to being managed. Blake, she whispered, where is my car? Before he could answer, the assistant's phone buzzed. A message flashed across the screen before she turned away. Send the clip now. Marcus saw only those 4 words. Then Blake stepped between him and the phone, his voice colder. If you're so worried about Ms. Cross, Marcus, maybe you should be the one to take responsibility for her. Evelyn's knees weakened again. No one moved. Marcus looked at Nia's drawing, then at the exit, then at the woman about to fall in front of a room full of people pretending not to watch. Helping her would make him late. Touching her would make him suspect. Walking away would make him something worse. For one breath, it looked as if the room might finally do the right thing. Evelyn Cross caught the edge of the bar before she fell, and 2 executives stepped forward as if shame had found them at the same time. Marcus saw the opening. He turned to the security desk and said, calm enough for everyone to hear. Call her driver from the company line. Law of the time. I'll wait right here. A simple request. A clean request. The kind of request that should have protected everyone. Then Blake Warren lifted one hand. "No outside noise," he said. "Not tonight. The board is still here." The two executives stopped moving. The room became marble and silence again. Evelyn looked at Marcus, pale and unsteady, her eyes fighting through the fog. For one second, she seemed close to understanding that he was not stepping toward danger for himself. He was trying to keep her from being left inside it. His phone buzzed again. Nia's teacher. Final call before curtain. Marcus did not answer. He folded Nia's drawing and slipped it deeper into his pocket, as if hiding the promise could make breaking it hurt less. "Ms. Cross," he said, keeping space between them, "I'm going to get you somewhere safe. I'm going to ask security to record that I did." Blake's mouth curved. "Careful, Marcus. That sounds like you volunteering." Marcus looked at him. "No, it sounds like everyone else refusing." The sentence landed harder than he meant it to. A few eyes dropped. Evelyn's knees bent, and Marcus moved only enough to stop her from hitting the floor. His hand touched her elbow. Nothing more. But Blake's assistant raised the phone again, and from that angle, mercy could be made to look like possession. Marcus knew it. He still did not let her fall. At the security desk, he wrote the time on a visitor log himself when the guard hesitated. 6:51 p.m. M. Assisted Ms. Cross after medical impairment. Phone dead. Driver unreachable. Requested witness. The guard frowned. "You want all that in there?" Marcus said, "I want the truth in there." By the time he guided Evelyn outside, Nia's recital had already begun. His cracked phone showed one photo from her teacher, Nia on stage, looking toward an empty front row chair. Marcus stared at it beneath the awning while Evelyn sat shaking in the back seat of his old sedan. Rain ticked softly against the windshield. In the passenger seat, Nia's drawing rested beside a bottle of water and a gas station receipt he had kept without thinking. Tiny proof. Tiny heartbreak. Hours later, in his kitchen, Marcus wrote the note on the back of that same drawing and placed it beside Evelyn's charging phone. For a moment, morning seemed to soften. Evelyn finally read the words after the voicemail had already gone out, one hand trembling over the blue ink. "You slept on the couch." "I slept in my daughter's room." She looked toward the hallway where Nia stood frightened and barefoot, and guilt crossed her face before pride could stop it. "Marcus," she whispered, "I didn't know." Then his phone vibrated on the counter. An email from Whitmore Human Resources filled the cracked screen. "Administrative leave, pending investigation." Beneath it came a second message from Family Services. "We have received a concern regarding an overnight adult guest in the home. Please be available for urgent review." Evelyn's apology died before it became a sentence. On her phone, the voicemail status changed from recorded to forwarded. By 8:15 that morning, Whitmore Legal had already turned Marcus Hale's kitchen into a conference room file. Evelyn Cross had been brought back to the tower in a company car after her voicemail reached the emergency intake line. Marcus had been called in for what Mara Bell described as a voluntary interview, though the guard at the lobby kept his badge the moment he arrived. Blake Warren's crop party clip was already waiting in the system. The red shirt from Marcus's kitchen had been bagged by HR intake, not as clothing, but as a line item, possible boundary violation. Marcus sat in a glass conference room 2 floors below the executive atrium, the same building where people had looked through him the night before. His cracked phone lay on the table beside Nia's folded drawing. Across from him, Mara slid a document forward with 2 fingers, as if the paper itself might stain her. Blake stood near the window, arms crossed, quiet enough to look innocent. Evelyn sat at the far end of the table in a black blazer, pale, hair pinned back too tightly, one hand resting near the phone that had carried her fear into the system. She had read Marcus's note. He knew she had, but now that note was inside a clear evidence sleeve, blue ink facing up, the words that should have protected him trapped under fluorescent glare. Mara tapped the document. "Mr. Hale, the company is prepared to resolve this privately. You acknowledge poor judgment in transporting an impaired superior to your private residence, accept administrative separation with 6 months' pay, and agree not to discuss Ms. Cross or Whitmore financial publicly." Marcus looked at the final paragraph. Family Services may be notified upon request. His chest tightened, but his voice did not. That says I admit I did something wrong. Mara's expression stayed still. It says you accept responsibility. For what? He asked. Being the only one who didn't leave her on a marble floor? Evelyn's fingers stopped moving. Blake leaned forward. Careful, Marcus. You keep framing yourself as the hero, but the voicemail says she woke up in your home, wearing your clothes, with no memory. The optics are not kind to you. He reached for the evidence sleeve and turned the drawing over. 3 crayon chairs. 1 yellow seat. Front row, Daddy. And this, Blake said softly, makes it worse. You wrote your explanation on a child's drawing. Some people might call that emotional manipulation. Marcus's jaw flexed once. He thought of Nia barefoot in the hallway, asking why his boss was wearing his shirt. He thought of the family services message waiting on his phone, the kind of message that did not care about truth until truth arrived with paperwork. My daughter drew that before any of this happened, he said. I wrote on the back because it was the only paper on the table. Then sign, Mara said. Go home. Protect your daughter from a public investigation. The trap sat there, polished and simple. If he signed, he looked responsible. If he refused, he looked dangerous. Evelyn's hand moved toward the evidence sleeve, then stopped when Mara glanced at her. Procedure pulled her back harder than guilt could push her forward. Marcus stood slowly. I won't sign a lie to make other people comfortable. His phone buzzed. Family services again. At the same moment, the conference room screen lit with the cropped party clip. Evelyn sagging against his arm. Marcus framed like the only man touching her. Blake smiled before he could hide it. Marcus did not look at him. He looked at the corner of the video, where the security desk clock appeared for half a second before the clip cut away. Marcus did not look at the part of the video they wanted him to fear. He looked at the clock in the corner. Half a second of truth, small enough for everyone else to miss. The security desk clock read 6:51 p.m., the same minute written in his own hand on the visitor log. Assisted Ms. Cross after medical impairment. Phone dead. Driver unreachable. Requested witness. Pause it, Marcus said. Mara Bell reached for the remote, more irritated than curious, but Evelyn's voice cut through first. Pause it. The screen froze with Evelyn sagging against Marcus's arm. Blake Warren's cropped version of the story holding the room by the throat. Marcus pointed without stepping closer. That clock matches the log I asked security to keep. If I was trying to hide something, why would I write it down while it was happening? For the first time, Mara did not answer quickly. Evelyn leaned forward, eyes moving from the frozen timestamp to the evidence sleeve on the table. Nia's drawing sat beneath plastic, the purple words front row, Daddy, staring up like a child had been called to testify without knowing it. Pull the original footage, Evelyn said. Blake's expression changed, so slightly only Marcus caught it. That file is under internal review, he said. We cannot let the subject of an investigation direct evidence handling. Mara found the safety of procedure again. He is correct. Mr. Hale, your access is being suspended pending review. The small hope in the room collapsed without making a sound. Marcus's cracked phone buzzed against the glass table. Family services. He answered because fathers do not get to ignore certain calls, not even while powerful people are deciding what kind of man they are. The caseworker's voice was careful and flat. Mr. Hale, due to the report received this morning, we need to complete an urgent safety review before your daughter returns home this afternoon. Marcus lowered his eyes. She is safe with me. That is what the review determines, sir. In the background, from the school office, Nia's small voice broke through. Daddy, did my drawing get you in trouble? Something in Evelyn's face flinched. Marcus closed his eyes once, then opened them with the same calm that had carried him through rent notices, empty front row chairs, and rooms that did not want to hear him. No, baby, he said. Your drawing told the truth. Some grown-ups just have to catch up. Blake looked away first. Mara slid the settlement paper toward him again. Sign this, Mr. Hale, and we can notify family services that the company considers the matter contained. There it was. The door out. The lie dressed as protection. Marcus looked at the red shirt sealed in a garment bag, the notes sealed in plastic, the cropped video frozen on the wall, and the woman whose fear had started a machine she no longer controlled. Then he reached for his phone, opened the emergency preservation form still active under his compliance credentials, and typed one request. Preserve camera A17, executive atrium, security desk angle, 6:40 to 6:53 p.m. Litigation hold. Mara stood. Mr. Hale, stop. He pressed submit. The screen flashed once. Request received. Badge access terminated. Outside the glass wall, a security officer stepped toward the door. Marcus placed the phone flat on the table and did not run. Evelyn stared past him at the frozen clip, suddenly seeing the reflection in the marble behind Blake's assistant. The tiny black dome of camera, 17 watching everything they had tried to crop out. The reflection in the marble changed everything before the original file even opened. Evelyn Cross saw it because Marcus Hale had forced the room to look where Blake Warren never expected anyone to look. Behind the cropped image of Marcus steadying her elbow, behind the story Blake had tried to sell, the black dome of camera 17 hung above the security desk, aimed not at Marcus, but at the whole room. The security officer reached for the conference room door. Marcus did not move. His access was gone. His job was hanging by a thread. Family Services was waiting to decide whether his daughter could come home. But the preservation request had already been submitted. The truth had a timestamp now. Open A17, Evelyn said. Mara Bell hesitated. Ms. Cross, procedure requires procedure. Evelyn cut in, her voice still weak but no longer unsure, is exactly what he followed when everyone else abandoned it. Blake stepped away from the window. Evelyn, you're emotional. She looked at him, then really looked, and the room felt the temperature drop. No, last night I was impaired. This morning I was frightened. Right now, I am reading the record. Marcus looked down at Nia's drawing sealed in plastic. 3 chairs, 1 yellow seat. Front row, Daddy. The paper Blake had called manipulation was sitting beside the note Marcus wrote before lawyers ever touched the truth. Marcus placed one hand flat on the table. The log, the voicemail time, the gas station receipt, the phone charge, and the note all say the same thing, he said. I did not hide her. I documented her safety. Mara clicked the archived feed. The conference room screen flickered. The atrium appeared from a wider angle. No music. No champagne glow. Just facts. Evelyn at the bar, unsteady before Marcus came near her. Blake handing her the second glass. The assistant raising her phone before anything fell. Blake leaning toward security, shaking his head when the guard reached for the desk phone. Marcus stepping back, hands visible, asking for a driver. Then the moment Blake had cropped, Evelyn's knees buckling while every executive around her froze. Marcus moving only far enough to stop her from striking the floor. Nothing more. A small sound left Mara's throat. Not apology, not yet, but recognition. Blake reached for the remote. This is being taken out of context. Marcus turned his eyes to him. That is what crop footage does. The sentence was quiet enough to make the room listen harder. Evelyn touched the evidence sleeve with Nia's drawing inside. Not as proof against Marcus now, but as proof of what he had risked. Remove my voicemail from the misconduct file, she said. Attach the full footage, the security log, Mr. Hale's preservation request, and his note. Then send the corrected record to Family Services before that little girl is made to pay for our failure. Marcus did not thank anyone. He only said, put it in writing. Blake's face went gray. Outside the glass wall, the security officer stopped walking toward Marcus and turned toward Blake instead. For the first time all morning, the room was not staring at Marcus as a problem. It was staring at the silence around him. Then Evelyn unfolded the plastic sleeve, lifted Nia's drawing with both hands, and read Marcus's note out loud. Evelyn Cross read the note out loud, and the room that had been so quick to turn Marcus Hale into a question finally had to listen to his answer. Ms. Cross, you are safe. You slept on the couch. I slept in my daughter's room. Your phone is charging. Please knock if you need anything. No one moved when she finished. Not Mara Bell. Not the security officer. Not Blake Warren, whose hand had fallen away from the remote as if it had burned him. Marcus did not smile. He did not look victorious. He only reached for Nia's drawing and held it by the edges, careful not to bend the purple letters his daughter had pressed into the paper. "Front row, Daddy. This is not an apology memo," he said quietly. "This is my daughter's promise. Do not leave it in a misconduct file." That was the first thing Whitmore corrected. Not because Evelyn cried. She did not. Not because Marcus begged. He never had. The record was amended because the full footage, the security log, the gas station receipt, the charging timestamp, and the note all said the same thing. A frightened woman had been protected by the one man in the room everyone had been willing to suspect. By noon, Family Services received the corrected report with Evelyn's sworn statement attached. She did not write that Marcus was kind. Kindness was not enough on paper. She wrote that he maintained boundaries, documented each step, requested witnesses, and acted when Whitmore leadership failed to provide safe assistance. Then she signed her name where power could no longer hide behind procedure. Blake was placed under investigation. Mara Bell sent Marcus a formal reinstatement notice. Marcus read it once, folded it, and put it in his jacket pocket beside Nia's drawing. He cared about the job. He needed the paycheck. But what made his hand tremble was the second message, the one from the caseworker. Safety concern closed. Child remains in father's care. That afternoon, Marcus walked into Nia's school auditorium after the chairs had already been stacked against the wall. Her teacher had left one row open, one chair in the front. Nia stood on the stage in her little silver star costume, twisting her fingers in the hem because she was trying not to run to him too early. Marcus sat down in the yellow-taped seat she had saved the night before. This time, when she looked out, he was there. She said her first line to an almost empty room, but her voice was steady. "Even when the sky gets dark, the North Star doesn't move." Marcus lowered his head, and for the first time since the red shirt, the voicemail, and the glass conference room, he let his eyes close for more than half a second. Evelyn stood near the back doors. She did not sit beside him. She did not make the moment about forgiveness. When Nia came down from the stage, Evelyn handed her the drawing, now sealed in a clean folder instead of an evidence sleeve. "Your father kept a promise bigger than the one he broke," she said. Nia looked at Marcus. "Can we keep the note on the back?" Marcus nodded. "We keep the truth." Later that evening, the drawing went back on the refrigerator. Same 3 chairs. Same yellow seat. But underneath "front row, Daddy," Nia added 2 new words in purple crayon. "You came. And if you have ever been misunderstood while trying to do the right thing, tell us in the comments what you would have done in Marcus's place. Leave where you're watching from, and subscribe for more stories about dignity, truth, and the people who keep standing even when the room gets them wrong.